Imagine you are standing in a crowded room. A sudden, sharp sound erupts behind you. Without thinking, your heart rate spikes, your muscles tense, and your head snaps toward the noise. You didn't decide to do that. You were triggered. Now realize this. Your entire life is a series of those sharp sounds, but most of them are silent. They are the invisible whispers of a system designed to make you act, buy, hate, and consume without a single conscious thought. You are a biological machine with backdoors in your code, and the 1% have been using those doors for decades. While you think you are making choices, you are actually just responding to stimuli like a laboratory animal. Today, we are exposing the input-output reality of human behavior. We are showing you the strings. To understand why you are so predictable, we must study the mechanics of the habit loop. Charles Duhigg writes in The Power of Habit that every automated behavior is a three-step process: cue, routine, and reward. Duhigg warns, the cue is a trigger that tells your brain to go into automatic mode and which habit to use. The system doesn't try to change your mind, it simply changes the cues in your environment. If they control the cue, they control the routine. Most of you believe you have a personality, but what you actually have is a collection of programmed responses to external cues. You are an NPC in a world designed by choice architects. If you are starting to realize that your choices are actually reactions, and you want to regain the steering wheel of your own mind, hit that like button. It is the first conscious act in breaking the loop. Why do these triggers work so perfectly? For that, we turn to the research of Dr. Andrew Huberman. In his work on dopamine and drive, he explains that dopamine is not about pleasure. It is about motivation and craving. Triggers are the sparks that ignite the dopamine fire. Huberman notes, dopamine is the currency of pursuit. When you see a specific icon or hear a notification, your brain releases a preemptive strike of dopamine. This creates a state of tension that can only be relieved by performing the behavior they want from you. The 1% understand that if they can trigger the pursuit, you will follow the path they have laid out for you, no matter where it leads. Understand this: most people are already lost. They are biological debris floating in a sea of external triggers, but a shift is happening. We are curating a circle of 100,000 elite minds, the untriggerable. This is the foundation of the 1% elite. This is not a community for the curious. It is a fortress for the sovereign. If you are not inside this circle, you are outside the code. You are the one being coded. To miss the insights shared within this brotherhood is to remain a reaction in a world that requires you to be a cause. Subscribe and secure your place among the 100,000, or stay behind and continue to be the instrument of someone else's will. The gate is closing, and once we reach our number, the collective intelligence of this tribe will be the only shield against the coming psychological age. Consider the writes of Robert Cialdini on the psychology of influence. He identifies the trigger of scarcity. Cialdini writes, "The joy is not in experiencing a scarce commodity, but in possessing it. When you see a timer counting down, your brain bypasses the logical prefrontal cortex and activates the primal amygdala. The trigger of scarcity forces you to act before you can think. The elite use this to create political urgency and buying frenzies. They make you feel that if you don't act now, you will lose forever. And in that panic, you lose your mind." If you know someone who is currently trapped in this panic, someone who is constantly reacting to every trend and every crisis, share this video with them. It is the only wake-up call they will ever receive. We are witnessing the construction of a digital Skinner box. B.F. Skinner, the father of behavioral conditioning, proved that the environment is the master of behavior. He created boxes where a simple light would trigger a complex chain of behaviors in animals. Modern cities and digital interfaces are just larger, more expensive Skinner boxes. Skinner stated, "The environment is the master of behavior. If you live in an environment designed by people who want you to be a consumer, you will be a consumer. You cannot willpower your way out of a poorly designed environment." The 1% elite don't use willpower. They use environmental sovereignty. They design their surroundings to trigger success. while the masses live in surroundings designed to trigger failure. To dive deeper into this environmental control, we look at the rights of Richard Thaler and Cass Sunstein in their seminal work, Nudge. They discuss choice architecture. They prove that by simply changing the default option in any given situation, you can control the outcome of millions of people without them ever knowing they were pushed. The 1% are the architects. You are the one walking through the hallways they built. They make the unhealthy or distracting choice the easiest one, the one that requires zero thought. They trigger your laziness to ensure your compliance. This brings us to the rights of Robert Greene and the law of agitation. In the 48 Laws of Power, Greene discusses the power of playing on people's needs and insecurities. Greene writes, "Find the man's thumbscrew. Every person has a weakness, a gap in the mental armor. Once found, it is a thumbscrew you can turn to your advantage." Digital algorithms are now the ultimate thumbscrew. They know exactly which headline will trigger your anger or which image will trigger your envy. They are turning the screw 24 hours a day. If you are ready to identify your own thumbscrews before someone else turns them against you, leave a comment with the word master. It is a signal to us and to yourself that you are taking command. Consider the rights of Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist who survived the ultimate dehumanization of the Holocaust. He discovered the ultimate secret of human freedom. He wrote, "Between stimulus and response there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. Behavioral triggers are designed to collapse that space. They want the response to be instant. They want the trigger to be the action. The 1% elite practice the expansion of the space. They train themselves to feel the trigger, the anger, the craving, the urge, and then they wait. They do not move. They observe the trigger like a scientist observing a specimen. Study the rights of Daniel Kahneman in Thinking Fast and Slow. He identifies System 1, the fast, instinctive, and emotional brain, and System 2, the slower, more deliberative, and logical brain. Triggers are designed to bypass System 2 entirely. When a trigger hits, you are operating in System 1. You are literally functioning at the level of a primitive reptile. Kahneman notes that we are blind to our blindness. The elite stay in System 2. They force their brain to stay logical even when the social media storm is screaming for them to react. To understand the social pressure of triggers, we must look at the rights of Solomon Asch and his studies on conformity. Asch proved that a person will ignore the evidence of their own eyes just to agree with a crowd. The 1% use social triggers to make you feel isolated if you don't follow the herd. They trigger your fear of ostracization. At the 1% elite, we are building a herd of a different kind, a tribe of lions who refuse to look at the world through the eyes of sheep. If you feel that pull to conform, you are being triggered. If you feel the need to be liked by people you don't even respect, you are being triggered. Look at the rights of Dan Ariely in Predictably Irrational. He discusses anchoring. A trigger as simple as a random number can anchor your brain and dictate what you perceive as value. If they show you a $2,000 watch first, the $500 watch feels like a bargain. You didn't save $1,500. You were triggered by an anchor. The 1% elite set their own anchors. They decide what is value and what is noise before they ever enter the marketplace of ideas. Consider the rights of Edward Bernays, the father of public relations and the man who turned citizens into consumers. Bernays wrote in Propaganda, "The conscious and intelligent manipulation of the organized habits and opinions of the masses is an important element in democratic society. Those who manipulate this unseen mechanism of society constitute an invisible government which is the true ruling power of our country." Bernays understood that you don't need a dictator with a gun if you have a trigger with a smile. He used aesthetic triggers to link smoking to women's liberation or fast food to family happiness. He built the psychological prison you are currently living in. Look at the Hook model by Nir Eyal in his book Hooked. He explains how tech giants use a 4-step process: trigger, action, variable reward, and investment. Eyal writes, "To change behavior, you must understand what makes them tick. The variable reward is the most dangerous part. It is the slot machine effect. Because you don't know if the next notification will be a like or an insult, your brain stays locked in a state of hypervigilance. You are literally digging your own grave of habit. The elite understand that the only way to break a hook is to remove the reward. They make their life predictable so they can focus on the unpredictable nature of the world. To weaponize your focus, we look at the rights of Cal Newport on deep work. He argues that the ability to resist triggers of distraction is the superpower of the 21st century. While the masses are triggered by every ding and buzz, the elite are in a state of flow. Newport writes, "To leave the distracted masses to join the focused elite is a transformative experience. This is what we offer. This is why you must subscribe, not just for information, but for the transformation from a reactive animal to a focused god." As Sun Tzu wrote in The Art of War, "If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles." Most people do not know themselves. They do not know their triggers. They are self-ignorant. Because they don't know their own buttons, anyone can push them. The 1% elite spend more time studying their own reaction patterns than they do studying the market. They know exactly what makes them angry, what makes them lazy, and what makes them afraid, because they know they can neutralize. This leads to the rights of Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor. He knew that the world would constantly try to provoke him. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He understood that a trigger only has power if you give it assent. If you refuse to agree with the trigger, it remains just a sound, just a light, just an image. It has no authority over the king of the mind. Finally, we look at the rights of Carl Jung. He famously wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." Behavioral triggers are the tools of fate. They are the invisible hands that push you toward a life of mediocrity and consumption. Metacognition, the act of thinking about your thinking, is the tool of freedom. By identifying the trigger, you bring it into the light of the conscious mind, where it dies. How do you reclaim your behavior? You must practice trigger auditing. You must look at your daily life and ask, what was the cue for that action? Why did you pick up your phone? Why did you eat that food? Why did you feel that spark of rage? When you identify the cue, you strip it of its power. You move from being the effect to being the cause. We are the 1% elite. We do not dance when the world pulls the strings. We are the ones who cut the strings and burn the stage. Join the 100,000 who own their biological code. Subscribe to the 1% elite now, because the window of opportunity is closing. Every day you wait is another day the system rewrites your brain. If you are ready to stop being a reaction and start being a cause, stay with us. In our next deep dive, we will explore identity awareness, how the system builds a fake you to keep you in line, and how to kill that version of yourself to be reborn. Stay cold, stay observant, master the gap. The 1% elite. Master the mind, master the world.